2, 1, boost ignition, and liftoff, and all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and The Bean universe. Lesbo and The Bean. LaTB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and The Bean.
Welcome back. Episode 167, coming half out of the press. It's a morning after, and what a morning. I mean, Nina Asneroff is feeling it, if you know what I mean. Oh, hey-oh.
They're ladies. I don't think so. I think there's a picture to prove what I said to you last night, that it doesn't go down like that for ladies, because we had enough excitement in the day. There's a picture of them both asleep
with the belts
two
between
belts
them.
between
I love
them.
it. I saw that photo as well. I saw that. That was awesome. But getting ahead of ourselves, we had a whole pay-per-view before that, prelims before that, and like we said before here at LaTB, we were going to push the LaTBs back to this potential date, but water champing it up in here. With the LaTBs, we were going to end up pushing it to this episode of 167, but think now after the year, now that we had this fight card go under, like we had predicted, there might be fight of the night contenders, knockout of the night, appendages in the eyes kind of a night. So we got a lot to get through. We're going to push that back till the new year. Be sure to stick with us, like and subscribe.
We got fun stuff going on for the new year, as well as the LaTBs coming up. And I wanted to read a couple of the categories. I think if you're a real fan and haven't listened back to last year's LaTBs,
you have a chance.
Yeah, listen
you have a chance before the next episode.
We'll go over them. If you're a new fan and don't want to listen back at all, we'll go over some of them. But some of the categories that we have on here is best faking of an injury.
I love it.
We have our famous forever fatty
contender for best faking of the injury, potentially maybe on this card.
Maybe.
I'm just saying.
We have our most ducked fighter.
Okay.
We have our dream matchup. We have our famous predictions for 2019.
Love it.
We'll talk about our ones for 18 and see what ones may have come to pass. There's a bunch going through it. We have best revival, submission of the year, KO of the year, loudest twit, favorite fighters, male and female, favorite announcers. So the LaTBs are coming up. That'll be Wednesday. Make sure you wear your finest attire.
Definitely. It's going to be a good show. Definitely look back. You have time to get back at that other one of last year.
And how can I take away from what happened last night? I'm just trying to delay the inevitable.
Once we get into this morning after officially, it did start off with not a big upset. Actual favorite coming in, Montel Jackson versus...
Is there anything we have to talk about in between?
Ryan Keller.
Last with them, we came to them Wednesday. Did anything crazy?
Yeah, that's a good point. There is a lot of crazy things that happened. Like we said, you had to wait because they moved the entire fight card. We did have Montel Jackson actually missing weight by 2 pounds at the weigh-ins.
Okay.
He was a fighter who missed weight. So, if you end up... I should have switched it because here at LaTB, we are sticking with the people who miss weight.
I agree. I thought that while the fight... I can't believe I didn't switch this. I
should have
knew
switched
better.
it as well. And I backed off of this. I did have a free bet earlier on in the week on Kelleher, but I ended up not making it one of my most confident picks. I didn't officially back all the way off of it, but it's on my Twitter. I didn't delete it because I ain't about that. I'll take my losses. I'll take my lickings as they come. It was an underdog for Kelleher.
You can't win them all.
Can't win them all.
You can't win them all. And if you're going to lose them, just be like, okay, note to self, don't go heavy in the paint on John Jones nights.
Well,
anything could happen. It
was a fun one, but anything also beforehand that I want to talk about, it was just tons of more talk of, did John Jones shut down the press conference? John Jones shutting down Mackenzie Dern's lookalike?
Oh, yeah, he was a little... nasty.
A little Rudy Tooty. He also was talking to a press credentialed journalist, and he brought up the preferential treatment, and John Jones' vibe was getting killed, so he totally cut that off. But it worked. John Jones was able to stay on point, keep his mood elevated, even though he felt like he did nothing wrong. Absolutely, and even since the fight card, he feels like he's done absolutely nothing wrong.
They sold out to capacity.
In a smaller venue.
My head has played it over and over again. I cannot logically make sense of what they're telling me. Listened to the Golden Snitch was on Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, correct.
I watched that whole thing.
Wow.
I listened to Dana and the Golden Snitch.
Wow.
I listened to Dana. I listened to John Jones. It does not make sense to me.
Who else was there? There was also
Pico Graham.
Dana on
That shit sounds like sauce you get from Taco Bell.
the ESPN.
I'll take
casts.
a picogram.
Pictogram.
Picto.
The entire
Pictogram.
One of the worst press conferences we've had in a while. At first, nobody was asking questions to either fighters, and Christina Cyborg and Amanda Nunes. Finally, when they asked them the first question, it's all Portuguese. And the audio was off where the fans could hear the fighters more than anyone.
And you kept hearing, oh, you know that like hum when the microphone hits sharp.
Right.
Why can't they get the sound right at these events?
It was a 3-day change.
It's what someone does.
A venue
Somebody
does,
for
right?
a living is at the venue and does the sound.
Does audio.
Come on.
The fans able to correct John Jones in the crowd. Pictograms. Oh, picograms? Picto. You would hear literally the entire audience. It was
like, stop saying it, dude.
such a unique
And
event.
I also felt like whatever story they decided, like some, we all decided we're going to stick with this lie. Here's the story.
Right.
I felt like every time John Jones spoke, Dana got nervous. Like, his part of the story was going to fall. He was going to say something dumb. And I do feel like if you listen back to all the stuff John Jones has said, including the post-fight presser, if you're a smart enough person, you can, and I am not that person, you can probably string together certain things he says, and he's probably very incriminating on himself. Like, there's certain, so he admitted to it. Like, we could go through it over and over again. I feel like everyone has. Like, we could squeeze the juice
only
out
people
of
it
this.
makes sense to is Nowitzki, Dana White, and John Jones. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, it is crazy going forward. And the rules are going to change for 2019.
The pulsing as well, that they're breaking down the pictograms that John Jones showed. Initially, they said he had never popped. Then as the week went on, they said, oh, he did pop earlier. But again, these are such minute amounts. We could be having these levels in our water system. I haven't popped for any pictograms yet.
Nobody else in the UFC has.
Exactly.
Except Frank Mir, who served an entire 2 years.
After
so
the
if
fact.
you're telling me John Jones is popping for the substance, then doesn't he owe us 2 years?
I mean, I don't want to see him off. I want to see John Jones fight.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care about the drugs and all that stuff, but I just think it's fair that he is being held to different standards than everybody else.
I would agree with that.
Because if he's getting to microdose, and people that don't know about microdosing, and I even see people arguing it online, and I'm like, you guys need to do more research instead of just listening to Dana and, like, the Joe Rogan interview, which I'm like, come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. You used to be the guy, and now you're just like...
Him and Nowitzki just got on to be like, we're not experts. And what I kept always assuming
I'm not a scientist, and I'm an employee of the UFC.
And I'm not an expert, but I know who to find to be an expert. Why don't you get that guy on the freaking podcast then, Joe Rogan?
Yeah, we don't need
Nowitzki.
employees on to talk about it. You might as well have Dana and just...
It was such a crazy shit show. It crescendoed so well at the end of the night, but these were some of the things going into it. As you were saying, though, with Dana White, getting back to it a little bit, him being scared of John Jones, there was a point in time where they asked specifically John Jones a question about some other thing, and about Jeff Nowitzki and his credentialed scientists, and John Jones is like, oh, I can tell you who those professionals are right now, and Dana White's like, no, you can't. You need to be quiet. You can't even pronounce pictograms. Remember that?
Yeah, it was almost like he's talking too much.
He big dogged him, and John Jones was like, I'm going to listen to my boss, and shut my mouth. And then soon thereafter, John Jones was hating on Mackenzie Dern, lookalike, doppelganger. I think we got another fight at 135 pounds out of the Swedish MMA scene. She gained over 2,000 followers in like 24 hours.
Well, and we'll talk about... Do you want to talk about things about the post-fight presser now, or wait until we get there?
I think we wait till we get there.
Okay.
But Any other big thing that happened on the pre-fight presser that we need to get into before we do finally start to break down this memorable fight card pay-per-view?
I'll do my impression of Amanda Nunes in it and then Chris Cyborg.
Prior to the fight, or is this post-fight?
Yes, this is prior to the fight. This is at the ceremonial weigh-in.
All right.
This is what they tell Joe Rogan. He's like, Amanda, I'm with the champion, Amanda Nunes, and I'm going to scream and my veins are sticking out in my neck. And she's like, be ready! Be ready, you guys! And then she goes. And then Chris Cyborg, he goes, I'm with the champion, Chris Cyborg! I'm fucking pink! I look like a sausage in a black shirt! And Chris Cyborg is like, oh, no. Cyborg Nation!
I totally agree.
I did not hear either of them.
I totally agree. Audio was bad on top of, like, it sucks. I need help with my English at times, definitely, but ATT, which Amanda Nunes is at.
I think they're both fucking
program.
awesome with the
They
amount
are.
of English they speak. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it was like they were both so excited.
So hyped.
And talking so fast. I've watched both those things
Over and
numerous
over again.
times.
Sure.
And because I was trying to like, who's going to win this fight?
They're probably
Who's
speaking
gonna win this
Portuguese
Were you ever nervous going into the fight?
with Cyborg.
Amanda and the whole time weigh-ins?
I do remember saying, like, hey, Misha Tate said that is the hardest punch she has ever felt. Like, she does hurt people. Didn't see that coming.
This is the other thing
I didn't see that
I
coming,
wonder-
though. I fucking didn't see that coming,
This is
so
the
I
other
can't.
thing that you said. I'll just give you credit now that you said on the show. Straight punches beat looping punches.
Every time.
And I gotta say, Amanda has the straighter punches.
It's the truth.
Like,
But Cyborg usually eats the punches and gets you to where she needs to. Obviously, that didn't happen, but
We'll get
I
there
think
when
we
we
need
get
to get there from the bottom to the top. Montel Jackson came in 2 pounds heavier over Brian Boom Kelleher. Biggest takeaway from this short first round fight that ended up really hurting throughout the night was the 1.5 Boom Kelleher got on DraftKings at a reduced price, but it was Boom Kelleher. Someone I'm going to have to be fading from this point on. I did start to hear as well, which I really don't ever like, was he was talking about his post-fight career, his retirement type of talks and stuff and issues he's had.
Tim
Anytime.
Means. He's Tim Means and
There was a couple guys that ended up doing that throughout the week, and I really need to be betting to that.
if we made a list of rules, this is where we screw ourselves a
Yeah.
little bit. Is we should have a list somewhere in front of us right now at this point.
To that be
Yeah, because
written in stone rules.
There's so many rules in this fight
That we
that we broke.
Yep.
So many.
First fight of the night,
First fight of the night.
stay away. Every time. If
Every
we would have
time.
stayed away, we would have been absolutely
That would have been
fine.
the first.
Yeah.
Missing weight.
Pick the other guy who
Talk
was
of retirement.
100%.
Was knocked out his last fight.
Yeah.
It was
100%.
every single red flag.
100%. But
This
also,
is what I didn't like about Montel Jackson. That was a very short fight. Very short fight.
Right.
He was winded AF still.
Great call. Great call. And that's a big takeaway as well. Another thing that does take away from this, that I do take away from this, is Henan Barrow against anybody else in there. I'm betting against Henan Barrow. The guys he's recently lost to, which is these next 2 matchups, not next 2, another one later on. It's just Henan Barrow is sharp. Brian Kelleher, if you're talking about moving on, sir, it is time to move on. I don't want to say get on out of here because I do feel like you could still have some highlight reels.
I
for
need
people.
to watch Quick again in another fight before I go heavy in the paint on Quick.
Yeah.
And boom, I agree with you. I'm going to soft shoe out of the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Soft shoe out of the room.
I'm gonna Homer Simpson.
Which I feel like I'm going to be repeating that
throughout the night.
statement a few.
I agree with that. It was an interesting fight night. So definitely Jackson also hesitant moving forward. Then we went on to the 170 pounders where we had another underdog here at LaTB, both agreeing that Zaire, the prospect killer, is definitely also seeing a little bit of that age in there. And this ended up being a decision against uncourteous Curtis Melender, flipping off by Hazari before the fight started. These guys were hyped. Badr got picked apart this entire fight. Entire fight. Was able to land a couple shots, but if we were to stick to that Bean-ism of straight punches beat looping punches, said that Badr had the bigger looping punches but more power. Well, Melender, hurt Badr every single round, almost got him out of there. Badr ate some of the biggest shots I've ever seen land. Melender striking looks good. Takedown defense looked good as well, but Badr did get Melender down at a point in time in the first round, and remember that Melender was talking to the corner like, I am getting up, and even Joe Rogan and Dominic Cruz were like, you can hear him. He sounds frustrated down there. And Badr really started to wilt in the gas tank, and that allowed the fight to get away from him, and that third round could have been a 10-8 round, essentially.
Did you have Melender anywhere?
Nope, I had all Zaire.
Didn't either. And I kind of stayed away from this fight, and I bet Melender was worth a lot of points. He really laid it out. But I have to say, I'm still going to like both guys going forward.
I agree with that.
I don't know if Badr... I think Melender might be that good. That was a great fight. That was a hidden great fight.
That was a great fight. We were saying this could be a fight of the night potential. Actually, Melender, even though he took that third round, the way he cemented it, remember how Zaire was starting to get to take down in rounds 2 and 3 finally? He re-rolled Zaire in the last 10 seconds.
Oh, you're right.
It was gorgeous. So that I really liked that Melender, even though he started to slow down in a high-paced fight where he ate good shots, he has a fight IQ to be able to land on top. I really like where Melender's
Zaire,
going.
his chin is so good. He is going to be a threat to a lot of people in there still.
Ooh, this was started off though for Lesbo's patented. You go with them all or not at all, and we had a Jackson Wink fighter start off with not at all in Zaire. Coming out of that
and you
week
could
with
even
John
say
Camp.
with the John Jones thing, he transcends Jackson Wink.
John Jones. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. He's the anomaly. It can be an anomaly, I guess. But Super Camp's going at it this entire night as well. Also, the uncourteous Melender calling out Michelle Perry. How did you feel about that?
Well, why doesn't he just call out Paige Van Zandt? Who's Michelle Perry?
Michael Perry. You didn't see that? You didn't see that throughout the night? Mike Perry obviously threw stones back, saying all sorts of FUs and being like, whatever, I'll get you, whatever. So, call out
Mike
for Melender.
Perry is a perfect call out because he ain't that great, and he's a big, huge name for not. He's like
What
the
kind of
biggest
punches did he
name.
throw? Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Mike Perry, one of the most looping punchers out there. Not the best takedowns or RIQ. So, good call out for Melender in that spot. Still, Zaire has fights to win in the UFC.
Yeah, I like both guys going forward.
Then we go on to a split-up fight we had here at LaTB. We both sided with Uriah Hall initially. I ended up swaying over to Bevon Lewis before the weekend came about. And Uriah Hall came through in the third round, just like the Jutko fight. Didn't we say that also? Like, hey, he just did this to Jutko where he was getting 10-8. And the exact same, not exact same thing
I think you said
happened.
he's Derek Lewis.
Yeah, he always has that type of
compare him
power.
to that where you're like, he can just be asleep
He
for
can be
3
losing
rounds
the fight
and then,
until he wins it.
Yeah.
And I didn't like what I saw in there. I'm going to have to quote Lesbo here with Uriah Hall's haircut, and that's the 7 years a slave haircut.
Yeah.
That was bad.
What is going on, dude? Take care of that.
I agree. This was one of those things that I started to hear as well, and I did listen to the interviews. I can't give props to who it was, but Uriah Hall talking to a lot of news organizations saying, hey man, I don't like to talk to media anymore. They really mess me up. They get me thinking stuff. I'd like to punch these guys in the face and knock them out so they know what it is, so they don't ask me these dumb questions. And yeah, I've started to look outside of, has had the retirement talk too. So I followed that rule apparently here, switched over to Bevan, who looked good for 2 rounds, and all of a sudden ate an uppercut early in that third round.
Sleep.
Beautiful call by Mark Goddard. No extra punches. Essentially a walk-off home run. That uppercut. I mean, freaking Bevon Lewis, Jackson Wink fighter, ended up having his eyes roll in the back of his head. That was as asleep you're going to see somebody. I mean, he was crinkled up. You could see his toes, his calves cramping up.
He was asleep for a bit. He even rolled his eyes rolled back into his head. You're so right. He went night.
So this is actually one of those
I think Uriah is still a sneaky play going forward. I think they're going to continue to try to let him be like, oh, you want to come play in the yard with the big dogs? But meet Uriah first. And he's going to keep doing this to fighters because he makes sure you have to be ready for 3 rounds. For a full 3 rounds, you got to be ready in there with Uriah Hall.
The Bean looking into his top hat here and actually linking all of these standards or things that I've seen come up for John Jones, the Jackson Wink fighters, and the other hype train that has been derailed was, I can't remember his name, something Harris, got a shot on the Contender Series, got knocked out, has been knocked out since in WSOF and his other organizations. John Jones said, this is my number 1 training partner. This guy's going to be the next thing. You don't see how hard this guy we go at it in the gym. That's what Bevan Lewis's biggest attribute was. He won his Contender Series fight, and he's John Jones' number 1 training partner. His chin's a little suspect. What's John Jones doing to these guys in the training room? TJ Dillashaw?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Maybe he's hurting these guys.
But he says he doesn't spar a lot. He says he doesn't hardly spar
That's
at all.
That's a good point. But either way, these are 2 top guys that he's
I just think
both been
Uriah
hyped
Hall
on.
is that kind of dangerous where he can snipe you out up and you have to be ready for 15 full minutes. And it's a perfect thing for these guys that are finishing and have these perfect records to go in there against real UFC caliber, and Uriah Hall is still that, I think. Even though he's old, he got that old hair. He got that 1700s hair.
So, we were right on this until I switched over to Bevan, because we were saying the same thing. These young Contender Series guys necessarily aren't
hair.
You said it.
But
so,
I still like Bevan Lewis going forward. He was
agree.
picking apart Uriah Hall everywhere. And sometimes for these guys, we've heard it from so many of the fighters, even recently, that Amanda Nunes is a perfect example of, I had to lose to Kat. That made me the fighter I am today. Like, that had to happen to me.
It's a great call.
And I think Cyborg said the same thing about her first fight in the UFC. Like, that had to happen to me to get to where I'm at. And it's been like 13 years and I haven't lost. Like,
right.
So
happened to Jose
I think
Aldo
Bevan
Pena
Lewis
Guerrero.
is still a very dangerous man because Uriah Hall isn't a walk-through fight.
100%.
I like both guys going forward.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I like what I saw from Lewis as well there.
Way more than Uriah. Uriah had me nervous the entire fight.
Definitely it was a scary bet to put on him, but it ended up coming through for Hall. Moving forward, Hall should get a much higher ranked competitor as well. He's kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with this debuter, but for Bevan Lewis at 185, he's going to stick around. He's going to have a couple fights. Hopefully he rests up a few months, because that was one of those change your life type of knockouts. If he watches that, he's going to be like, man. He woke up off of that, stretched out on that stool, was just like, woo! He could poor guy. He took it well, though. Uriah Hall, how do you feel about his post-fight comments? Sister, battling through depression. And then a little teary-eyed there, Uriah Hall.
I thought that was really touching.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I think the one thing the UFC is doing really well is they're bringing a ton of awareness to mental health, more than a lot of other sports. And I like that.
Agreed.
I like what they're doing, and I like Uriah Hall. He seems like a sincere guy. Dangerous man. Still a very dangerous man. I hope his sister is okay.
I totally agree with that. Moving on to the 135-pounders bantamweight, we had a battle between prospects Nathaniel Wood versus Andre. I keep saying Elwell.
You will?
It's not Elwell.
You will? Elwell?
That's what I keep saying, but now you got me in that train of thought. It's not. It's Ewell.
Ewell. Andre Ewell. That's just Christmassy.
Via submission in the third round, Ewell had a bunch of hype because he just beat Renan Barao. And as I was saying before with Kelleher, I think the biggest thing we take away from that is Renan Barao is super done. Anybody against him, short notice, Ewell came in and looked
Well,
like a
because he's so
UFC
busy
caliber
playing Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody.
fighter. He's got movie roles.
Doesn't he kind of look like that guy?
I would agree. The little Dracula he's got some screen time in there. Stunt double for Freddie
He
Mercury.
just puts in a mouthpiece that's teeth, and then he looks just
I don't
like
think
Freddie
he needs
Mercury.
a mouthpiece.
You know how Freddie Mercury he got a grill
Oh,
on him.
definitely.
He got a grill on him.
So, Ewell didn't look that good at all. He's more of the counter striker, but he got picked apart that first round, eventually going to the ground and being submitted. Was this a rear naked choke, I believe, finally, at 4 minutes in the third round? But what I liked was a good gas tank from Wood. He ate shots from Ewell and he spit out nails. Ate the shots on the chin, spit out nails. Wood looked good, even though he wasn't moving his head at times. Ewell didn't look as good as I thought he was gonna. I had Wood on some cards, good exposure. He was on some winning lineups of mine. I really don't like what I see going forward for Ewell. His chin didn't look that good on the ground. He really looked exposed, and he tends to be more just of the striker with not the greatest takedown defense. As well as, I feel like Nathaniel Wood is a way better prospect at this point and really showed in the third round. He has a good gas tank, has a good chin, and has great fight IQ in there. Everything I saw from Wood, I liked.
In my opinion, when we look back at this loss for Ewell, we'll be like, oh, well, I mean, come on, it was Nathaniel Wood that he lost to. I think Wood is a very scary person rolling forward. I hope I remember that I said that. Because this is so crazy. It's still not enough because it was so low early in the night on the fight card that, I'm forgetful. I don't remember the fights. Like, you'll remind me of it, but I don't know.
This was a fun one. It was a scrap. These guys weren't quitting in there by any means whatsoever.
Wood just looked really good to me everywhere.
Yep. Everywhere. Moving on to the 155 pounders, we had Ryan Hall defeating Baby J himself, BJ Penn, via submission round number one.
I switched to Ryan Hall. I came to my senses.
Biggest favorite of the night, all the way around, and there was a reason for it. BJ Penn coming out in the first round and actually putting on him, going to strikes for Hall, which we know is a very limited striker. As soon as Hall started rolling for that leg and really going for it, BJ Penn defended for the first minute well. The refs stood the fight up. We thought, hey, BJ Penn might have another shot here, but immediately Ryan Hall Imanari rolled into a rolling heel hook, and BJ Penn tapped very quickly, and rightfully so. That Achilles tendon almost ripped off of his ankle there.
It was one of those kind of injuries that might not even be injured today at all, but it was the kind of pain that you have to look at afterward for a little while.
BJ wasn't standing on it.
Oh my goodness.
He wasn't standing on it, and when they slow-moed it down, in the middle of that Imanari roll, that was set. Like we were saying later on in the evening, you could see where his heel hook was dangerous. There was another point in the night where it was somebody going for a heel hook, but it was sloppy. Ryan Hall, not at all. He tucked it in and turned, where other people just use it to switch over.
Will we see the Wizard fight again? Is he dangerous going forward, or is he sketch city?
I don't know, because he specifically liked this BJ Penn fight because he wasn't worried about the knockout potential anymore, as well as just the slowed down and old school fighter that BJ Penn is. He saw an advantage. I don't think he sees as big of an advantage in many other fighters other than 155 pounds. Maybe Diego Dream Sanchez. I hate it, but that's the fight he would take. That's the fight he would take.
The next category is who fights Diego Sanchez next.
I bet you, of all of them, Ryan Hall probably is going to get that best shot to fight him. And then Hall has to take somebody dangerous after that. Because UFC wants to give him a couple and be like, yeah, come on, dude, keep fighting.
Could you put him on the UFC Hawaiian card since he took out BJ Penn?
No, he might get egged. He might get freaking egged on the way in. Or pineapple. They might throw a whole pineapple at him.
He says he wants to go train with him. That was his...
I agree, and that's fun. And he showed a lot of respect. BJ showed a good showing. Hopefully, BJ Penn takes a step away. I thought you were asking me if BJ should go to freaking Hawaii. And I would say yes, but only if you fight Diego Sanchez at 155 pounds. It's the only way I see BJ Penn fighting again. Diego Sanchez, Hawaii.
It needs
or
to
he
be
steps
both
away.
their retirement fights.
Agreed.
In Hawaii.
Agreed. Diego
Max
Sanchez.
Holloway headlines.
Yep. 100%.
Speaking of Max Holloway, did you see Brian Ortega's Instagram today?
With Halle Berry?
Yeah.
Speaking of Max Holloway, where is Max Holloway in this?
Because Max Holloway beat that T-City ass!
Well, hopefully T-City was beating some cheeks as well.
I don't see how you didn't know what Max Holloway had to do with it. Because what's T-City if not for that?
True.
That's
True,
last year only
true.
as good as your last fight.
Woo! Halle Berry making an appearance. Fight night still looking every bit as
But
20
next
years
time
old.
I talk about T-City, I'll say, speaking of Halle Berry.
Speaking of Halle Berry, Claudia Gadelia's got another fight with Halle Berry
Oh,
coming
shit.
up. We're going to have a super fight. Halle Berry's going to probably be weighing in at that thick 145, girl.
Halle Berry might have a chance the way Gadelia's look lately.
She got a baby in the box.
Who does?
Whoa! this-
Who? What?
Gadelia! Both of them probably.
They're both probably pregnant.
They got pregnant. TC getting paired with T for a reason, baby.
I don't know.
Where are we going with this? Where are we going
All
with
right, let's see if we can segue back into.
this? Where do you go with, again, BJ if he fights again, only against Sanchez, or get on out of here, sir? But we've been saying that for a long time. Ryan Hall, only if you fight Diego Sanchez, or time to get on out of here.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Moving on to 135 pounds, we have Peter Yan coming in as a big favorite against Douglas D'Andrade. Evil Twin coming in all over D'Andrade, trying to get the fans to bet badly again. You know how I say here at
I
LaTB.
hope I can remember to put Halle Berry on the picture.
Oh, we will. Well, we will. But, again, evil for a reason. Peter Yan, clinic over the little Terminator, De Silva looking like a freaking shredded up TRT tord in there, having a frothing brook of a haircut, mullet for days, probably one of the best haircuts I've seen in a while, faded up finally for D'Andrade.
It was such a good mullet that Chiesa was like, I gotta cut my hair. I'm not even gonna compete. What am I gonna have the second bust mullet in the at
That's
a
a good
UFC
point.
event? That's silly. It's one thing to have a mullet. It's another thing to have the second best mullet.
Oh, I agree. What I actually didn't like for D'Andrade in this fight the most was that he had it in a ponytail and didn't let that thing just flow in the fight. It was a garbage ponytail. If you're going to have a beautiful haircut like that, you got to let it go, buddy. Let it go. Benson Henderson in that. Get
Old school Lineker.
Exactly. So, Peter Yan putting a clinic on D'Andrade. I mean, being able to take him down, using 3, 4, 5 punch combinations to really stifle
I have to say
D'Andrade's
something.
power.
This is the fight where I realized maybe the lines are dead on all night.
Agreed.
This is
Another
where it
favorite
started
coming
to
through.
roll in, where it was like the favorites were the favorites
Other than Hall so far.
so far.
Only ones
So
other
far.
than Hall. He came through early on in the night. But with this,
But he was a favorite. So he came
Uriah
through.
Hall? Or Peter Yan.
No, everyone didn't. Who's Uriah Hall's the only underdog.
Underdog so
yeah,
far.
Yeah.
Peter Yan in the second round, corner stoppage for De
I was
Silva.
thinking of Ryan Hall, and I was
Oh, no,
I
yeah,
forgot
he was a huge
Uriah
favorite.
already, which actually effed me on a few of my cards because I swapped I
If
just
you would have
looked
just
at
put both
Hall.
of them.
No, I looked at Hall, but I put the wrong Hall when I was planning the card in my head. So I ended up, I had Uriah Hall nowhere and Ryan Hall everywhere. And, which is fine, but I wish I would have had Uriah Hall on some. I would have kept my cards that way for a reason. I don't like to have Ryan Hall heavy. When I looked at my cards, I was scared. I mean, I was glad the way it turned out.
Sure.
But.
Round one. Finish.
Yawn.
So the best thing though in this fight was actually a corner stoppage due to elbows cut over Douglas D'Andrade's face at the end of the second round. That ground and pound started to take over for Yan. Yan having a great gas tank. I mean, really looked great. Love the corner stoppage. They just allowed D'Andrade to fight an extra 3 to 4 fights in his career because it was going to be more of the same in that third round. And I love it. I hope other corners do the same thing. D'Andrade was beat in there. Good for you. Lick your wounds. rest it up, get in there. You're still a beast.
Peter Yan should get a tattoo right here on his elbow that says Tony Ferguson Razor Company, and it should be a straight razor.
Right? You saw it gush immediately.
It was unbelievable. We didn't think that was going to happen again this year, where it was just going to be let there be blood moment.
It wasn't as bloody as other ones, but it was a gnarly cut.
It was gnar.
It wasn't the most gnarly cut of the night,
yes,
though.
and I love that. And we love the corner stoppage.
I love it. We always call for that, and it finally happened. And need to give them props. I like Yan moving
forward. If you
forward.
know your guy can't win, it's why wouldn't you save it? You want him to fight. You know he needs more training to fight guys that he can beat. That's the goal. Agreed.
And this is actually one of the few times where I'm like, D'Andrade is at the right spot. He's at the right camp. He's working. He needs to get better punching combinations together.
And if you noticed inside the auditorium,
people cheered.
Yeah, they did not boo the corner stoppage. Like, they didn't. They might have been even nil about it, but they didn't boo it. So
agreed. And Peter Yan's English working on it. How do you feel about that?
I love all of it. Every time any of them just make an effort.
Agreed.
I appreciate it.
Agreed.
I know how hard it is to learn other languages, and so to speak another language in front of that many people, it's not very comfortable when you're not comfortable with it, and so good for him. Good for Peter Yan. It made me like him more.
Agreed.
And he put on a show. The people that are like gonna say, oh, well, look who he beat. I don't think that's a walkthrough fight for somebody else. I think Peter Yan is the real deal. There's a lot of real deals coming up this card.
I agree 100%, and I don't think D'Andrade looks as bad as Peter Yan's career goes on. It's one of those times where you're like, wow, look at Silva beat these other guys and only lost to we're looking at a easy top 10, maybe top 5.
And I'm going to say, I don't know who he is, and you're going to say, the bullet!
Yeah.
You're going to be like, you know who he is!
You know who he is.
Yeah.
D'Andrade himself. Moving on, though, to... it's the co-headliner for the preliminaries. We had a quick one with Megan Anderson as an underdog coming in against Alpha Cat herself, Zingano. This only took a minute. Some people calling for a disqualification, other people saying that it is just considered a strike. One of the most devastating strikes we've ever seen in the UFC. This one started off tentative, both women coming at it, Alpha Cat.
Well, we don't even know at all if it is devastating, one of the most devastating strikes. Because I guess, wasn't Cat fine backstage?
No, there was some gnarly photos. I don't think she's got to go to the eye doctor. She's still going to, she didn't go to the hospital, but she's still going to go get tests because she had blunt force trouble.
And she probably has to get I'm sure she gets tetanus shots anyway in the UFC.
Definitely. Yeah, they do have to have some stuff. Stitches for Alpha Cat over her eye. If you didn't see the strike at the end of the first minute, Megan Anderson threw a 3-4 punch combination, which is Megan at Jackson Wink. Did I see her with him?
I didn't think so.
I could be wrong on that. But either way, what ended up happening...
She was in Minnesota or something, but I could be wrong.
She's doing a lot with her announcing as well. Megan's flying all over the country for the UFC, being a good announcer at that. Breaks down fights well. I like what she does in there. Alpha Cat, though, this is just a freak finish. I do agree that it was a TKO because the fighter couldn't move on. Alpha Cat thought that her eyeball had ruptured because she got a toe in the eye that caused 7 stitches on the eyelid, and that kick was thrown with purpose. It's never to punch.
I have been exactly in that scenario.
She thought her eye was gone.
I have been exactly in that. I was surfing and I was coming down off a wave, and there was a person where they shouldn't have been in, a beach they shouldn't have been in, and I had to come off my board really awkwardly, and pretty much just my the whole trajectory of my body, just a finger went right into my eyeball, and I thought my eyeball was gone.
That's what Cat
thought. My eyeball was gone. I wasn't even about to open my eye anymore. It was such a scary moment. And I couldn't see for a while. And it took a while for my vision to come back correctly because of but looking at her eye and my eye, she had her eyelid block it. I did not have my eyelid blocked at all. Ooh. At all. And so my eye was completely red. Like hers will be red today.
All the way around. Hers is going to be all the way bloodshot today because that toe went right in there. And actually, Jackson Wink does have ties to this. We've said it many times. Is it Wink?
I don't think
himself?
the toe went in there at all. I think her eyelid stopped it. She has the stitches in her eyelid.
Well, I still think the blunt force trauma of just the knuckle,
Oh,
the
yeah.
same as a knuckle
Yeah.
in the eye.
That definitely.
Alpha Cat
But it
thought she was
wasn't
losing
even.
her eye.
I will say too. It was still a kick, but it was not. It was not
illegal.
No, it wasn't pressured in a way that it was a kick for Megan Anderson to the eye. It was a weird, like, off, like, Megan caught her, like, as Kat was coming out to the right-hand side, Megan kind of, it was like, it was awful. It was like a toenail scrapes. It was bruised.
Jackson Wink coach.
I don't dog Kat for the stoppage at all.
Agreed. And that's the right
I-
stoppage. I still agree that it's a TKO. Jackson Wink's coach, Winklejohn, got a toenail across the eye and is missing an entire eye because they couldn't save it. That exact
If it
same
is allowed,
situation.
in my opinion, if they're going to keep that it's not a poke, like a appendage in the eye, because it shouldn't be allowed, even though it's really good aim. If it's going to be allowed where they keep it, they need to have some sort of thing. You know those filing brushes for dogs that spin?
Yeah,
they need to
nails.
come and curve off toenails.
I agree.
Like,
there should be a nail check, hands and feet, especially with exposed feet. One of the best memes. Well, Dana White talked about the press conference saying he'd heard about it, never seen it before, but he felt like it was a TKO. One of the best memes of the entire night was a meme of John Jones saying, "We can poke with our toes now?" Question mark.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
It was a really, really good one. Moving forward.
And can you believe right now we're still talking about the prelims?
Still, yeah, we still have some. This could be one of those like weird award of the nights for like flukiest wins. This is like Korean Zombie's shoulder coming out of its socket type of win.
It makes me so bummed for both women because I even think in the win for Megan Anderson, it's kind of sketchy. I loved at the end, she said all the right things. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm just doing my job. I will be okay to run this back with her. Like, yeah. I'm totally cool with that. And I think that's the right call because what do you have... Well, or Megan fights Cyborg because she's on a win and Cyborg's on a loss.
Woo!
But we can talk about that when we get there.
Jump!
Well, what else? We're going to talk about where both these ladies go from here.
True. A lot of people actually even saying that 145 division might be in trouble because the champ... Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Let me say something else about this fight. It sucks. I think both women, it sucked the way that it turned out. It was just like a sketchy win. They running this back, Kat's going to get knocked out. In my opinion, I saw her do everything wrong against Megan's style within the first minute. Even the way she circled out from that fight to get caught where she got caught, she was going to get caught in the temple and get knocked the fuck out.
I didn't like what I saw in there from Kat. The short amount that it was. I love that they're going to run it back. If there's ever a reason to run one back immediately, this is the type of reason. I'm going to still bet on
Oh my
Megan.
gosh, I thought the funniest thing of the night, funnier than the John Jones, was when you said the lady from Bird, the blindfold, the Sandra
Oh, that's the truth. The lady from Bird Box was Kat Zingano in the back room and backstage.
Yeah. If that's a Netflix movie with Sandra Bullock, I haven't seen it. It's not funny at all.
Ooh,
but
one of the few.
I know what the pictures look like.
Because everyone's talking about it. And of course, Lukey Thomas hating on Bird Box. There had to be one, maybe one of those reasons why I don't see eye to eye with Luke Thomas. I love Bird Box. Don't get him at Sandra. Don't come at Sandra that way. Luke Thomas.
Luke Thomas. I watched a little Luke Thomas. I watched all his after show too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of watching.
Oh yeah, I was up so late.
A lot
It
of
was
watching.
shot out of a cannon.
It was a fun one.
It was like the fights didn't do it for me. Like the John Jones fight did not do it for me.
We'll get there because I totally agree with that. But moving forward, I'm going to still pick Megan Anderson in that fight come around the second time.
I agree. I'm going to change it next time. I did not like what I saw from Kat, and I think she's going to be ball shy going forward with Megan, so she's going to even make more mistake.
I totally agree.
And that was only a minute into the fight, and I feel like Megan, if that's where she got on that first kick, let's say it didn't cut her eye or hurt it, let's say she barely missed, let's say, within the next two of those circle outs
Right.
of her cutting off the cage toward Kat, she was going to knock her out.
Right.
It's almost turned out the best case scenario for Kat.
If it wasn't a toe to an eye, it would have been a shin across the dome.
I agree. I agree.
That
I
kick
think
landed.
it's almost best case scenario.
Like kick landed regardless.
It was the least amount of power. It was the kind of kick that Megan
flicked
was
it.
just.
She flicked it
Yeah,
out
she
there.
was just getting her
Range.
crosshairs. She was just getting her crosshairs zoned in.
Definitely.
So. And Megan Anderson, the shit part, I like her. I think she's a cool star. I like a lot of stuff about her. It's just really 145 is a hard weight class.
Right.
What a hard weight class that is for the women. It's really tight. And do you throw Megan in there against Amanda Nunes? But I guess she would have fought Cyborg. She thought she was signing up for that
Didn't
fight
they-
at one time.
Yeah, and didn't they say this was the number one contender fight too?
Or do they drop the 145 pound altogether and
That's
do
what
the Demetrius Johnson
That's
thing?
what I was going to get into later on once we
Okay,
get
we'll
to that.
talk
Why-
about
That's
it.
why I was going to move on
move
to
on
the
from these
main
ones, Dan.
event. For
No,
the preliminaries, we have Walt Harris versus Andrei Arlovsky. Here at LaTB, you had a free bet from the Bean for the plus 135 underdog. Andrei Arlovsky, one of the judges had it right, 30-27. No way in hell. Andrei Arlovsky at best had a 29-28. This was a split decision fight for me all the way over. It ended up turning out to be a split. Andrei Arlovsky 41 points on DraftKings. Walt Harris about 77. Harris gassed after that first round, exactly as we called it. Ended up being super tentative once he felt that right hand of Arlovsky, and they just kind of looked at each other for the rest of the 3 rounds. Walt Harris, top team guy, still tons of potential. Arlovsky does this though. He's 2-7 or 2-5 of his last 7. Now he's 2-6.
Jackson Wink plan of like lay and pray, but except they do it standing.
And just give away rounds.
That's kind of what they do, don't they? They just kind of are like, let me point this. Oh, I can't point this. I'm going to stay back as far as I can and just kind of ride out the rounds.
Right. As far as a prospect, Walt Harris, I still gonna like to bet against him.
Me too.
And for Andrei Arlovsky, he's one of those guys that's in Diego Sanchez type of a category.
I felt like Andre could have just a little bit of pressure and Walt Harris would have crumbled. Every time that he came in with the combinations, Walt Harris didn't fare well. This fight was close to me every single round. That's the only way I could understand a 30-27, even though I think 29-28 was right either way that it went.
Yep.
But every round was that close. Every single round was that close that you could have made an argument about either guy getting it.
I feel like there was one round, if it was either 1 or 2 for Walt Harris, where Andrei Arlovsky's head shook like a lot of other heavyweights would have went down. Arlovsky's chin held up. He ate some big shots in there. But that's where Harris started to gas when he threw one of those big flurries up in there. So, again, moving forward, I don't really like either of these guys. Ended up losing a free bet on this one as well for Arlovsky. But, hey, that's a heavyweight fight. Moving forward, it's a big fade for me. Out of the night, there's not tons of fades.
It's a 265 division, so unless it's DC or Stipe, you're kind of like...
Or Jones now.
Did he call Daniel back down? We'll talk about that.
What do you feel with both of these guys moving forward? Then we had a fight of the night contender with opening up the pay-per-view. You definitely made your money's worth in the pay-per-view here. The third free bet of the night finally came through in the plus 125 underdog. Alexander Volkanovski coming in against Chad Mendes, TKO in the 4th minute, round number 2. I mean, this was a firefight from beginning to end. Both guys looking good. They did mirror each other really well. Dare I say this was one of those looping straight punches?
No, I don't
They
think
were both
so,
straight
because
punchers?
I also feel like Volkanovski, there was...
He got rocked
almost
more
finished. Yeah, he got...
in the first round.
I think he was kind of losing the fight up until he won it.
He lost that first round. I would agree with that. Volkanovski lost that first round to Chad Mendes.
And he was losing the second round.
The takedowns were coming in for Mendes as well. But Mendes started to gas heavy into that second round.
That's the Mendes thing. He goes so hard at those first bit that who could keep up with that tempo?
But that's what you love about Volkanovski, is that he can take what proved with this, he can take the big shots. He fought a top 5 guy in Mendes who would take out a lot of other people in there before he gasses. But what we liked is we saw Volkanovski's got a good gas tank, good cardio, good fight IQ. Always kept on point. And there was a point in time where Volkanovski got a cut underneath the eyelid where I was like, ooh, please don't stop this fight. Volkanovski shook it off, came back to it, and tons of pressure. Tons and tons of pressure. Loved everything I saw in this fight.
I like this fight too.
This was a fight of the night contender. We
tons
called
of
it.
Transitions, tons of just two very skilled men who had all the same skills. It was very interesting and just very telling. I'm so glad Dominic Cruz was ringside to keep the details abreast. To keep, like, here's what's going on.
Oh, yeah, it was
so
fast. Good. It was such a fast-paced fight.
And he talked up Chad Mendes pretty nicely. And he's like, what Volkanovski needs to do here is blah, blah, blah with Chad. One thing that Chad always does is fade, blah, 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 blah. Like, he knew Chad down to a T.
Alpha male.
Had that game plan.
Definitely. Top 5 guy at 145
I have
pounds.
to say, once I saw Uriah Faber in the room with him during the embeddeds, I was like, oh, Chad's going to lose the fight.
Ooh, interesting.
Uriah Faber, I just think everything, if he's around, it's almost like he's like the Hillary Clinton of the UFC. If he's around, they're gonna lose.
Wow! And I know how much you like Hillary, so that's high praise.
If they send him around to your town, you're gonna lose.
Uriah's gonna win, not the fighter so much.
Yeah, he's a
businessman. Uriah Faber is a businessman. So many Uriahs and Halls in these episodes.
Yeah, Uriah Faber. Volkanovski, I loved everything in him going forward. Don't think that Max Holloway was the best call out for him.
Agreed.
Like, homie.
Agreed.
Homie, you know what? What about Ortega? What about you heel, Ortega heels? Perfect. You're going up, Ortega's going down, and like the guy on a win goes up, the guy on a loss fights down.
I love that fight.
That's perfect. And it really shows me like, oh, you got this next level skill set going forward.
Because who do we have? Moicano versus Aldo happening now in Brazil. We also have another 45-pound bout that was just signed recently.
And give him he can chill. Max does everything that we need him to.
Agreed.
Max can chill.
He
can sit back.
He earned it.
He can have a super fight next, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody, it's almost like the double belt holder is the new bachelor's degree. You have to be a double belt. What's one belt?
Agreed.
What's one belt?
Agreed. If you're not in the GOAT talks, you ain't in the talks.
Yeah. The pound for pound, 2 belts. He never got that second belt.
I haven't even heard pound for pound, really. I haven't talked about it in a while.
I felt it last night.
Ooh. Made a little showing as of last night. We haven't talked about it in a while, but moving forward with Chad Mendes, what do you feel? How do you feel about him?
I still like everything from Chad going forward. Chad is the opposite of Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall, you have to be ready for a whole 15 minutes. Chad, if you can make it through the hardest 7 minutes of your life, you can beat him.
Right.
But you'll have to prove your soul. Yeah.
It's not easy. Not easy at all. I totally agree with that assessment. Moving on to the 205ers, we had Corey Anderson defeating Ilir Latifi, the politician, majestic horseman himself.
How many people are going to pop?
Who do you think pops here?
I don't know. What about Chad Mendes? But he actually looks smaller than he did in his first fight.
He was thick. He was thicker than a snicker, for sure.
Remember how big his legs were in the first fight?
He was
looked
after
he got
but
back.
That gas tank showed for a minute, too.
And remember also how he was out for 2 whole years?
Yeah, because he popped, but he gave himself up psoriasis, all that stuff.
I know, but he popped on a banned substance, not an illegal substance,
Correct.
which is actually should be less.
Correct.
But it wasn't less than the main event. But I guess we can talk about it when we get there.
Definitely. Profiling the 205ers, though, Corey Anderson, as we said it here on the show 100%, it's either Anderson decision or it's Latifi knockout. And Anderson's chin held up. Being strong, I can't believe I didn't forget to bring it up. Corey Anderson coming in with one of the strongest nipple games of them all. He could feed a whole family of possums with those things. Corey Anderson, woo! He puts weights on those. Like, he stretches them out on purpose. I don't care.
They could have elephants and trapeze under them if they used them as tents.
Unreal. I mean, overtime for a reason. Corey Anderson.
Like a mountain range.
Yeah. Definitely.
He definitely, what you were going to say just now is definitely he clips something to them and hangs weights.
Right? There's no way around it. He stretches them things out. But Corey Anderson really came through on his beast in 25-8. I mean, this was overtime all day. After the first round, LaTB really was throwing his weight into his punches. I mean, he does that nonstop. Again, looping puncher versus more of a straight down the line puncher. Corey Anderson ate some humongous shots. People were questioning, as was I here, that
Is
chin.
LaTB Jackson Wink?
No, he was with
Okay.
he was with Gustafsson in Sweden, also being a politician, which I didn't find out about
all
till afterwards.
Swedes or no Swedes?
Lesbo coming through. Hot takes. I didn't like that I started to hear about all of this politician stuff. I forget. It skipped me somehow, and this is one of those things where it's like, hey, you're a full-time fighter or you're not. And to me, he's not right now, and I tend to fade those type of guys. Should have seen it. Overtime, he's a full-time fighter. Everybody that's ever worked with that guy says he's there early and
He's got
leaves
good
late.
cardio.
No, that's amazing cardio at 205. Actually, 205 starting to have some real contenders. Overtime being one of those guys.
Really, I don't like either guy going forward.
I think overtime. I think Anderson's making a quiet 3-4 fight winning streak against top level competition.
I still think he's glass jawed, and I'm nervous. I don't think LaTB ever got to, after the first round was over.
It was one punch at a time for LaTB.
Yeah,
maybe
he was
3.
slow, and he was really lacked any danger.
Right.
So I think he lacked the power. I think he lacked a lot of the. Yeah, once it got into the the latter 10 minutes of the fight, I wasn't nervous for Corey Anderson at all anymore. So I'm super tentative on him going forward still. But LaTB, I'm like, I feel about him going forward, like, oh, well, we got 5 minutes. We got 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Totally. But even then, with all this politician stuff, it could be less than that. He could be residually feeling it from other stuff. At 5'8", being 225 pounds, freaking monster of a man. I'm going to be fading LaTB from this point on. Dominic Cruz was saying it as I was saying it prior to that Ryan Bader knee. Anderson can land, and I saw Anderson being able to land that. He didn't throw it, but even Dominic Cruz was saying, man, LaTB's throwing his weight so hard over those. That Ryan Bader knee, anybody can throw, and it's going to land on LaTB. It's only a matter of time. If we see it here now, other people are seeing it, so I think it's a big fade, LaTB, from this point on. Corey Anderson, I'm going to be putting money on. I think he's a quiet dark horse for the division. 102.05 pounds, looking sneakily good. Cormier might be making another show in it.
I had a bad night overall, though.
I didn't have the best night either. I ended up going 7 of 6. I don't remember what you went, but
7 of 6? That's great.
yeah, it's over 50%. Not my best.
I mean 7, like,
wins, 6
isn't
losses.
it 7 of 13?
Or yeah.
7 of 6.
My bad.
You got over 100%.
110%. Here, if you ain't following, you ain't making money.
I did 4 of 13.
Woo! There was a lot of crazy fights. Crazy fights. It doesn't matter. It was a fun night of betting regardless.
I didn't even care.
Yeah.
I had such a
fun
night of watch. Well, we'll talk. Yeah.
There was a lot of heart bets here. There was a lot of the heart.
The last fight of the night was not the main event that...
which we agree on. We're getting there. We're almost there. We're doing so good.
Okay.
We're doing so good. We are at the not the co-main event, at the co-main event, because the 2 main events were belt-worthy bouts. We had Michael Chiesa coming in at 170 pounds against Carlos Condit. Submission round number 2. Here the Bean had submission round number 2. Michael Chiesa. I'm telling you, I'm reading this fight right. I read it right the whole time through. People are thinking Michael Chiesa is going to be a heavy-duty fighter at 170. I don't think so. I think Carlos Condit, Jackson Wink, shot fighter. He just can't. People know how to beat him. Get him to the ground. He can't do much on there. Chiesa eating shots the whole way through just to be able to get that body lock and then not willing to get away from that grappling for nothing. Chiesa was just holding on as much as he could. Was this the fight where I feel like Carlos Condit was going for that heel hook, but he wasn't grabbing it. He was just grabbing it to make Chiesa move, but Chiesa never felt in danger. Ended up finishing this with a straight bar. I thought that shoulder was out of its socket. Carlos Condit, time to get on out of here, my friend. I love you, but you need to step away from this. He's had the retirement talk for far too long. Chiesa looked good, but I'm not going to bet him on a lot of other spots. Maybe only against Neil Magny at 170 pounds, but that's about it. Who do you have in this fight? Or how do you feel this fight went down?
You're like, ah.
Neil Magny.
Yeah. What do you feel about Carlos going forward with Neil Magny? Or Chiesa going forward with Neil Magny.
It's a fight that Chiesa can win because Neil Magny has been exposed on the ground. Dos Anjos, 55er, who hasn't looked good at 70, was able to exploit that. I feel like Chiesa is kind of doing that same thing.
Do you think he's just kind of making a Damian Maia type move through the division?
And I think that he picks those type of fights that Damian Maia and other ground specialists go to because he realized and said it. I'm not a striker, guys. I submit guys. It shows why he submits guys, but...
He looked a lot better at 170. His body looked great.
Skipping off of the
I almost
scale.
even think getting the toenail to the top of the head. I mean, when the dolly hit the car, the bus.
His bloodletting.
I almost think taking his extra time to show the elites that he was willing to play the game. I'm sorry that I got off the. I think taking the extra time and actually allowing his body, because they talk about it all the time. Even Amanda Nunes, like, no, I want the extra time to gain the weight right. Maybe Chiesa had the time to do that because his body looked great. He looked so much better after cut.
He was bigger than Carlos Condit.
And he was only he said by fight day, he was 3 pounds heavier than when he walked in at 155. Because he would walk in at 185 when he fought at 155, and he walked in at 188. So I thought that was like really telling on his body. And he said his head was super sharp.
The morning of, he woke up with only a pound to cut.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. He had a full meal the night before and only had a pound. I love it. It's actually one of those good things. But again, I do see that Michael Chiesa has holes in his game, and there are exploitable 155 pounder with some good body kicks.
I think it's funny how if he's a ground specialist and how long people last with him on the ground or submit him.
Right.
He's 50-50. He's more of a Ben Saunders to me. That's a fight. That's his fight.
Oh.
Fight Killer B.
But Killer B's on a 3-4 fight losing streak. He might be out of the UFC. I think 4 fight losing streak, like all by TK.
It's like a perfect fight for Michael Chiesa if you're trying to build him up. It's like a ground guy. He's in minimal danger.
I could see Alex Oliveira because he has a notoriously bad ground. Not bad, but
he submitted some people.
He's exploitable.
He catches people.
He's exploitable, but he has good enough striking where Chiesa can't fuck around.
Didn't he submit? Or no, was
he
it
got
Carlos
fucked up
Condit?
by Gunny.
He submitted one of these guys already.
He submitted Condit as well. He did in the second round.
Yeah, okay.
So, moving forward, I'm tentative on Chiesa. Condit, please, sir, step away. Step away. Nothing but harder fights for him. This was actually one of Carlos Condit's easiest fights in the UFC. Out of his last 5, 8, 10 fights, this is by far his lowest ranked competition. Maybe other than Oliveira even.
Yeah, Carlos, it's time. Retire. Give him whatever he needs to retire. Let him fight in his hometown, whatever these guys need. And UFC, you know them all well enough. Give him a fight they can win so they can retire. But I do think the UFC does that sometimes, and then the guy's like, oh, I can still win. I'm not going to retire.
That's exactly what happens. Like, sometimes it got to be like, all right, you want a monster? Here you go. Oh, yes, time to step away, sir. Please, 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 please. We saw Matt Hughes in the stands every time. Gets me. Matt Hughes.
Oh.
Get me, buddy. Was he next to Halle Berry? Feeling good about his life?
Ugh. I don't even have any. I can't even make a joke about anything with Matt Hughes. No, but I just like to make a joke about anyone that we talk about. If you would have said, oh, we saw Halle Berry, we make a joke on her expense. We make a joke. I can't do that with Matt Hughes.
I don't feel like I was making a joke.
No, I'm talking about for myself.
Okay.
I wanted to make a joke about him. And just because that's my normal instinct is to just like, let's crack something.
Every time I see him, it's like, crack you want to make me cry right before the main event? Put Matt Hughes on the freaking screen.
If he didn't get in his accident, I would crack a joke about him.
Oh, 100% agree.
Just because that's what I do. Agree. That's what I was saying. But now I agree with you. It touches my heart.
Every time.
I wasn't saying you were cracking a joke.
The interesting thing, Him and BJ Penn had some of the best
Like if they
wars
would
of
have
their
showed
life.
Camera Usman, I would have been like, look at Camera Usman, they're at 30% or some bullshit.
Oh,
but I'm like, I
goodness.
can't say anything about Matt Hughes.
There is nothing to say. He's a saint.
Yeah, exactly. St. Hughes. That should just be his new name.
That's actually.
You better
should be.
pray to St. Hughes.
I love it for the MMA gods.
Yeah,
we have a
you better
St.
be
Hughes.
praying for just St. Hughes.
That's a LaTB TM trademark. LaTB Legion. You know.
That'll be our shirt.
Yeah, we gotta figure that out.
Is that okay? Because aren't saints dead?
Not living saint. There it is. We
That's
just made
allowed
up
to
a
have
new
in
one.
our religion.
Well,
Why
you
not?
can't tell me. I can
can't
have a
tell
living
me.
saint. I
You
can.
can't tell me.
LaTB Legion does what it wants.
We're in space.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
in space. We got the Virgin
You know what
Valentina
planet we're on?
Shevchenko gave birth to the bird. Like
Saint Chinchenko as well.
no, the virginal.
Saint-Chenko.
The
The Virgin
Chenko.
Chenko. Did you see those bullets she was propping around all weekend long?
Oh my god.
Valentino, gotta talk of her whenever we bring up the co-main event. Amanda Nunes, always tied. I mean, this could have been the main event of the night, and it would have been a better main event. As you're saying, we said they shouldn't have moved the fight card. People would have been okay with this.
People would have felt better walking away with this feeling.
I would have.
I would have too.
I would have. I didn't feel right because so many other things, but we got to give credit where credit is due here. We had Amanda Mataleon finishing off like nobody ever has before. Christiana Cyborg at 145 pounds, taking the time to put on the weight. Nina Asnoff sleeping with the belts. She got an extra $50,000. Nina got her car. Amanda's getting whatever she wants today. I mean, that was fight of the year potential. That was round of the year, not fight of the year. That was round of the year potential. It was one-sided, and Mataleon came through. Michael Jackson's rolling over in his grave. It was unbelievable. I mean, that right hand, straight punches beat looping punches. We saw that here. Cyborg, I was saying, as everybody else was she'll eat those shots to be able to get you to the fence to do what she needs to. But Miesha Tate said it herself. Amanda Nunes hits like a man. Amanda Nunes hits like a man. She trains with men. She was saying in the post-fight presser, she trains with guys isn't eating all those top team guy shots. So she knew after the first punch landed from Cyborg, I'm fine. I can move forward. Cyborg can't knock me out. And you saw it. Amanda Nunes didn't back down, but it was an educated striking game plan. She wasn't just swinging like Cyborg. Cyborg was flurrying. Cyborg was fucking throwing shit.
Cyborg got clipped, and that's why she was just like, oh, nope. Nope, she got knocked out a few times on her feet.
Times.
Like it was really rough beating, and it was 40 seconds.
51 seconds.
51 seconds. Was it 51 seconds for the whole video or
for
the round?
Whole fight. For
That's
the whole
what
fight
I mean.
was 55
like,
seconds.
So it wasn't. What would happen if Cyborg backed off from that whole flurry? How gassed is Amanda? It was a weird 40 seconds. I'm glad for Amanda it went down a way that it did. I think she's everything. I think she's the best. I don't know whether she's fought the best resume of fighters ever in one.
By far.
Resume.
By far.
Or has she fought the best fighters ever in one?
Yes.
And who's the number one that you think she's fought in one? It's Val, isn't it? Isn't it Val?
If it's not Val, I mean, it is Val because Val's the 125. But
She's the only one to go to decision with her twice.
I mean, essentially, Nunes has not 3 belts because she challenged at 25, but she beat the 25 champ. So she has a saying like, I could get the belt at 25 if I can make the weight. I can't, but I beat your champ there too.
Do you think she gave a ton of credit to her camp? And like, we're a family.
How do you feel she's talking about the Hall of Fame?
I think she's easily in the Hall of Fame.
Easily, you don't ask for it because you're in it. You're in it regardless.
If you've beat everyone that is in the female Hall of Fame, you're in the Hall of Fame.
And, I mean, a contender for most ducked fighter of the year potentially, Christiana Cyborg. One person who didn't duck her, Amanda Nunes. I mean, legacy. This is someone we're going to see for a while. She's still young in there. She still has growing to do. I mean,
I agree. I think it's going to be a
such a great fight.
The only one I can even see competing with Amanda Nunes is Valentina. That's really the only fight to make is a super fight.
Megan?
That is so yeah, or me. Yeah,
No, I agree.
It's a weird. I would love to see Holly versus Amanda at 135 or 145, either one for the ladies. But I think Amanda's gonna have a really hard time going back down. I felt she had a hard time making 135 when she was a 135er. So I think she has a really hard time getting back to that weight. And will the UFC build a division around her where they keep her as 2 belts? I love her and Nina's story going forward. I think Nina is a threat in her division. She could be wearing a belt.
We've been making money here. She has a contender for biggest underdog we've picked all year.
I loved everything I saw, and I hated to see Cyborg go out like that. But hey, you're gonna live by the sword. You die by the sword.
For sure.
I still like both ladies going forward. I still think they're both worth tons of points. If you bet on Amanda out there,
good for you.
Good on ya.
Yeah.
Good on ya.
Good on you. Actually, gonna give props to the only person I saw bet Amanda Nunes, and that was MMA Nerds at MMA Nerds. She's got a podcast. She's young. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, am I giving too much hype? Is that it was?
I don't know. You're giving it's your.
Hey, I'm just saying. I didn't see anybody picking Amanda Nunes but her. Anybody. She was even getting hate, and she's like, "Damn, guys, like back off. I can pick who I want." Only person that freaking came through. It was interesting. A lot of people saying that the 145-pound division can also be killed by Amanda Nunes here.
Yeah, because all they're doing is pulling 135ers up. To me, it could totally be taken out. The only one up there worth watching is Megan Anderson, and instead I just think Misha Tate, call Megan Anderson, build a 145 at 1 around her. She seems like a nice lady, and she's already on your side of the world.
Christiana Cyborg's final fight on her contract as well.
It wasn't yet.
Oh, I thought this was officially it. I'm wrong on that.
She has one more fight left.
Oh, okay. Okay, I had it
What
off.
happens is they get a fight and they're up for free agency with one fight left. So they went to her and said, "Hey, we'd like to re-sign you," and she chose to stay a free agent. So she has one fight left that now she's not the champion, and she could have signed her contract
as a champion.
So this is the other thing I was gonna say. You know how we like curses or not, or I think an interesting one is if the UFC asks you to sign and you decide to go to free agency on that fight, you lose every time if you don't take that fight.
Interesting.
Whether you're Eddie Alvarez, whether you're Christiana Cyborg, there's been a couple other big, Demetrius Johnson. If you're somebody who decides like, let me play my cards. Yeah. You gonna lose.
Interesting, and I need to look back at that some more.
I got news. Attention. You gonna lose.
I like it.
Anyway, by the numbers can look that up. That could be totally wrong. I might have just said 2 names and then added on Demetrius Johnson because he got in a free trade, but I could be right about it.
I feel like we could.
It sounded convincing. Demetrius Johnson.
Definitely the truth.
Justin Gaethje. I don't know. I'm adding ones on.
With this, I feel like we could end it here, and I would be absolutely happy. I feel kind of dirty talking about final fight.
I know, I'm so proud
of
Amanda Nunes. She was so likable in her press conference afterwards. She said all the right things.
Agreed.
I loved her, and it's so easy for me to admit when I'm wrong. Like 2 belts in her and how happy, I could feel her happiness.
I don't even feel bad that I picked Cyborg.
Me
I don't
either.
even feel bad.
No,
I feel so good for Amanda Nunes.
And she was so much more humble than she was after she beat Ronda.
Agreed. And I absolutely love as well that Cyborg came out and was totally talking to the press and just like, it happens. We love it.
I hate to say this term, but Cyborg manned the fuck up and came out and she took her lumps from the reporters and she's like, I'm not going to cry. I had a great run and blah, blah, blah. She's a great champion. Like, she was very humble, beautiful.
Loved it.
She's still Cyborg Nation.
She still beats 99.9 women out there.
And very likable. Still very likable. It was watching Cyborg do that made me wish Ronda would have. Ronda would have gotten that immediate where we love her again if she would have gone out there and taken her lumps and their questions from the reporters. Like, hey, Ronda, you were the greatest champion to ever be in women's MMA. You opened it up. 10 great fights. Thank you. Let me ask you some questions. Like, she would have got her ego fluffed back up a little bit, her wounds licked. People would have helped her, but she never, ever gave us the opportunity to treat her like, look it's under the table already.
Yep.
Jose
Agreed.
Aldo, under the table. You can be a great champion and lose, and then we still love you. Just give us that chance to touch you, and that's what Cyborg did, and she handled it with fucking grace.
I loved it.
Fucking grace. So both ladies, love them.
Agreed. Love them.
They really represented Brazil in a fucking classy way.
I totally agree. It's a win-win. One of the few times coming off of a fight where both fighters win here. Gonna make their stars bigger, both of them.
They're IMGA.
MWMMA.
They make Brazil great again.
Cyborg's an American citizen now, I'm just saying.
Hey, she could still represent her people.
True her heritage.
Yeah.
Anything left with either of them?
It.
Finally,
Let's
the main
move
event.
on to
The whole reason.
Patooey.
Ugh. Gotta watch this last one out of our mouth, where we have never had whole fight card the week before. There has been the day before, but that was the first fight ever. Now here in the evolved state that we're at with the big companies, the big ambassadors, the big sponsors, definitely, I don't know if they made money on it. They had to have. Jon Jones came through in the third round. Feel like we had this one spot on.
P3 protein pack, the new sponsors that we saw
Conspiracy,
everywhere.
LaTB conspiracy, P3, round number 3. Jon Jones finishing it. 2 minutes into it. I think that he's getting a kickback somewhere. Kraft, I know you got it. Kraft gave him a bunch of cheese slices, if you know what I'm saying.
If you know what I mean.
So.
In the syringe in his hiney, if you know what I'm saying.
One of the craziest weekends we've had ever in UFC history. I mean, there's going to be headlines for years and years to come. This only taints Jon Jones's legacy that much more. Everybody feels like this isn't a right win because I feel, maybe I'm wrong because I'm not an expert, but neither is Jeff Novinsky. So I do feel like something was wrong. We know that he might have had asthma, just like my other boy Brock Lesnar.
Or cyanitis, like our double champ lady, Amanda.
But she'd never been popped on roids yet.
No.
Not yet.
And her body dodoesn't look like it.
No, I agree. Where I'm saying Brock Lesnar.
And her voice doesn't sound like it. That's
Agreed.
a lady dead giveaway.
And the interesting thing, maybe I'm just being a total shithead, but anytime I think of steroids, it used to be on a Cyborg, Justino Cyborg. And when Jon Jones is on a fight card, it's only Jon Jones. As the reporter found out, Jon Jones being diva-esh, definitely trying to throw his own vibe out there. And
he did apologize to that woman.
On the post-fight presser. I like that.
He apologized to get Mackenzie Dern, the reporter that wasn't Mackenzie Dern.
Mackenzie Dern's stunt double.
Yeah. Mackenzie Dern's her stunt double.
So that reporter, that Swedish reporter, officially now famous. I bet you she has a real job. She was a reporter, obviously a real job, but she's way more famous.
He's so phony. He's so gross. I lost interest in his fucking fight. I found myself just go to Twitter and start tweeting about Cyborg.
I agree with that
really don't even care.
But we all saw it coming. We're all like, okay, so he gets to be on the juice, and he actually trained for this. Gustafsson also.
Well, it makes me, even when he got clipped by DC, and how he called DC out afterward to go right back into that. It's like, homeboy, you probably were dirty every other fight. Like, no one thinks you're the greatest. You keep saying how DC's not the real champ because everyone knows you held your belt since 2011. But no, everyone's questioning how many fights you won legally. That's what everyone really is doing. You're not the real champ. Maybe DC would have never lost the belt if your dirty ass didn't. There's something about Jon Jones. I think his legacy is so tainted. He's dirtier than Anderson Silva. His legacy, in my opinion.
By far.
Yeah.
I don't even know that. You can't put him in the same.
Who's dirtier?
Category.
He's not in my goats. I know everybody loves Jon Jones, but
whoever is even close to dirtier gets kicked out of the UFC.
Yeah. And a year and a half, even that substance that now he admits to that he didn't admit to before, it's
T-ball is illegal in most of the world. Illegal,
and
not
the
banned.
California State Commission was the one that friggin' was doing all the whole thing that was given him the 2 years originally. There's something so... I can't even... It's disgusting how we're talking about this and it's still overshadowing Amanda Nunes.
being the best
Yeah, I
woman
don't even
fighter
want
of
to
all
talk.
time.
I don't even want to talk about John Jones anymore. I mean, we will when he fights again. But Amanda Nunes, that's how I want to end it. And Chris Cyborg, they were a perfect example
Round
of
of the
our
year.
whole sport. It wasn't my round of the year,
Oh, really?
but
It was a flurry.
It was a flurry, and it was beautiful, and it was against a fucking. It was a
Cyborg.
Conor McGregor moment.
Cyborg.
It was
running
Conor
over-
McGregor knocking out Aldo. It was a moment like that.
It totally was. Amanda Nunes running around the ring with both belts on her shoulders.
Just cute. She just looked cute.
Cyborg hugging Amanda Nunes on the ground immediately, immediately having
Loved
no
it.
bad bones about it. I did love it. Great way
Are
to
we
end the
dressing up
show.
for the LaTBs?
I guess we are gonna have to. That's the next show, right?
It's
That's
the next
coming up.
show. We'll
We're
be
gonna have
coming
a
with the
little break.
LaTB Awards. Because we have this old Tonight Show theme. We bought that. It was all we could afford. So, yeah, that's it. Amanda Nunes, you're awesome. And that's all I got to say about that. Thanks for listening.
Lesbo and The Bean!
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and The Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.